we're all constantly evolving. Or you're clear on what you want to do and you say,
Yeah.
no, I'm good with just this. Okay, Pat. Yes, right? Like there's so many different ways to build your business or to create, the passive income. If that's all you want to do, then just be a lender.
Right.
Um, like there's so many different ways that you can get involved. It's just like, what is your avatar? The problem for me, this is actually a good segue in. The problem for me is that I like all of it. Oh, I want to try all of it. And so, um, this year is about focus, right? What am I, I need to be focused on the things that give me the most joy and give me the most amount of yield. Like I'm a goal area oriented person, right? So like this is how much money, and then that's what I'll work toward. And it may not even be the money. It may just be that that's actually what the goal is. I mean, it's nice that it's money. So, now I have to learn how to say no to things, turn them down. Like that doesn't fit in my wheelhouse. And so I have to turn it down and say no. And it's really hard for me because I'm like, oh, that looks like so much fun. And that person's awesome. Oh, I'll get involved in that. And I never thought I would say this, you guys, but you need to hear this. I'm full. I'm literally like, I've never been full in my entire life, and I'm full. I can't eat one more wafer. There isn't one more wafer. There's not room for one more wafer. If you guys have ever seen the Monty Python. Um, so now I'm having to make choices, right? Like, what are the things that I'm going to be involved in that give me the most joy, that give me the most amount of return, and give me the lowest return on brain damage? Like I don't, right? Like, how much brain damage is it going to cause? And is it going to bounce me out of my life in some way? Because, some of this stuff bounces you out of your life because it's
Is the
stressful.
is the inn at Mount Snow, is that like, does that add to 50% of your capacity? Because that seems like a big undertaking to buy a hotel, refurb it, market it, establish your brand. Like, how long has acquiring a hotel and being an owner operator been on your radar?
Yeah. Well, that wasn't really on my radar. And then all of a sudden I was like, hey, we could buy it creatively. And I actually come from the hotel business, so I do have a hotel business background. So the operations of a hotel were not super, I mean, they're complicated and there's a lot to it, but it's certainly something that I knew I could do. So we acquired the hotel in May of 2024. We started the work in July and we opened for business at the last week in December. So, that's the journey. I can tell you, we're still getting up and running. Like I was doing the Google ads yesterday, right? I was putting Google Tag Manager on our website. I'm loading the rates into Intopia, which is Vail Resorts. Like I'm having to do some of that work because this is not something that you can give to a team member who doesn't, right? Like this is like there's a snippet of code that has to go on your website. Like if you don't know how to do that, like you need to know how to do that. So, and when you're writing your ads, right, you're looking for your keywords and SEO, and so there has to be you have to have an understanding of that. So there's nobody else to do that but me. And then there's other things that you can farm out, right? Like, okay, there's some administrative work right now that needs to be done, like the list of staff, the days that they work, Gusto, which is our payroll provider. Like we have to upload our employment agreements and our independent contractor agreements. Well, that can go to somebody else. But the independent contractor agreements and the employment agreements have to be written by somebody that understands contracts. I understand contracts. I have those from other businesses. So, right. So there's like in the beginning, you can't farm this out to other people. You have to do it. Then once you have the ownership in that area, then you can systematize it and then hand it over to somebody else. But in the beginning, like it's all you. I mean, like it is a very, very heavy lift. But when it's private equity and real estate, right? Private equity, because it's a business that throws off cash flow. It's not like multifamily where you're going to have tepid cash flow. And then when you sell the asset, because you're forcing the appreciation, you're going to make the majority of the money on the back end, you're going to make really good money in cash flow. Like it makes really good money every month once it's stabilized, right? Then when you sell the asset, dispose of the asset, whatever, whether it's refi or a sale, then there's a big bump for all the LP, anybody that has an ownership stake, right? In that. So it's like the double whammy. Whereas you don't get that per se in multifamily,
Did you
right? It's
start a fund to acquire this? Or this is all your, was it private money partners?
no, this was syndicated. So actually we'll talk about this because this is interesting. So a syndication is a fund for one asset.
Mm.
It's just one asset. So we have this asset, we're buying it, and we're going to raise money from a bunch of limited partners in order to do whatever it is we're going to do with the asset. So you're raising from a whole bunch of different people. It's a legal document. You are a fiduciary, and it all gets dropped into the bank account. They own a proportionate share. They actually own shares in the entity, in the actual LP structure. And then there's a GP structure, right, which is what we are, the operators.
Mm-hmm.
And then 1 second, somebody's asking me for a code. Code. So yeah, so right, so syndication is one asset. You're
Mm-hmm.
running the financials on just that one asset. You might do a 60-40 split, you might do a pref, you might do, right, exactly like a fund, but the fund is a thesis and you're selling the idea of the different types of assets or the vertical that you're going to buy with fund money.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a lot of times people who are going to be fund managers will start out syndicating and then they'll say, well, gosh, we have so many deals, like it's hard to raise for a variety of different things. Then they'll start a fund with a
Mm.
thesis and they'll just take in all the money there and then they'll deploy it into those types of assets. And you can
Is it thesis like multifamily or apartment buildings? That's one thesis.
yeah.
It would
So
probably be more specific.
yeah, exactly. Was that Gina? Yeah.
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
probably be specific, like we buy B class that we are going to elevate to A class, or we're going to buy C class that we're going to elevate to B class. We look for things that are in a certain metro area. We look for things that are 100 units to 150 units. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty specific on the type. And then you can say, and we look for projects that once we underwrite them are going to give a return of 15 to 18% IRR and take about 5 years. So it's like almost all the details of the project are there, except for the address.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a really good description. That's a great description. Exactly. Now, here's a crazy thing. You can actually write the thesis any way that you think that investors will be attracted to your fund. So, for example, you could say 60% of the fund invests in boutique hotels with these parameters, like what Gina was talking about, and 40% is in an uncorrelated asset, which is land funding. And you're sort of like land funding, because the truth is, depending on the type of person that you are raising funds from. So when I'm raising money now, it's usually from people that have seen me, that know me, and they sort of say, like, I don't really kind of care what it is. Like, I know you, I've lent to you before. It could be land, it could be a home, it could be a hotel. Now, if it's a longer term, I want to make sure I tell them. And they just say, well, like, we know you, we trust you. And so whatever it is, we'll lend to you. So those people will come into your fund kind of no matter what it is, because they are backing you. And the reason they're backing you is they've watched you. They've watched you run a business, sell a business, run real estate, sell real estate. They know like what your work ethic is. They know how, obsessed you are. Or there are other people who say, I love your thesis. Tell me more about it. And they're going to invest in the idea or the thesis, right, that you have. And they want to know a little bit about you, but it's not just you. Like some of the people that invest, like I've talked about this last time, a friend from college. And he just, you know, he lent to me the first time, he lent to me the second time, he lent to me the third time. And he's like, my wife and I can't believe we get these, they call it their mailbox money. So they get a Zelle payment because I actually give them money back on Zelle. It's just an auto Zelle that's set up. And they get a ding on their phone. And he says, every time I get the ding, it's like Pavlov's dog. Like I start drooling. I'm like, there's my mailbox money. So when I went to raise money for the hotel, he wasn't like, what is it? Show me the deal. He's like, will I get mailbox money? And I was like, well, your mailbox money is actually better because you were only making 10% per month because I'm making monthly interest only payments on the PML money that he's given me. But in this syndicate, he gets a proportionate share of the cash flow plus the equity multiple. So now he's like, this is great. So then they have a rental property in Alabama and they bought it in all cash and they were making $1,200 a month by renting it out. It's worth 400,000. I said, if you were to give me 400,000 and you were to get 10% simple interest, it's a lot more than your 1,200. And he was like, we're selling it right away. Can you take right? Because like that's the calculation, right? What's the calculation?
Yeah.
So yeah, the fund, and this is what I told Michelle and Michael. I'm pretty sure I told Michelle and Mike. If I didn't, I need to tell them this. They're going to want to have enough of a track record, and they're going to want to be able to show people outside of sub 2 and some of these investment groups, here are the deals that I have done. Here's the return that I was able to get. And you can come in with me into my fund and I will help you tap into this. So, because if I'm a limited partner and Michael says to me, well, I'm making 14% simple interest per month. And I go, that's amazing. Where can I, how do I do that? Then I'll give my money to Michael because I don't really know. Like if I'm a, like an average person on the street, right? Not an investor. I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to put it in the fund and I'm going to let them do the work. So Asher, for you, like if you're, going to get involved in this, then really what you're going to do is you're going to talk to everybody you know. Hey, I run a fund with a couple of other partners. We invest in single family, first position, Georgia, Louisiana, and Chicago. And we do purchase price, rehab, backed by real estate, and we pay our limited partners 12%, whatever that is. And then you're going to have like a nice slick one pager and some other things. And that's basically what you're selling to them. I mean, that's what you're sharing with them. But you'll see like people will learn to trust you. I mean, especially if you've borrowed. Have you ever been a borrower yet? Like on a deal? You've been a lender on a deal, right? You've been lending, correct?
Correct. I've borrowed hard money for flips. What do you mean borrower?
Yeah, like a borrower. So, okay. So you borrowed for hard money, but you're doing some lending now.
Which is ironic because I'm doing both at the same time. I'm flipping a house, have borrowed with a hard money, get my monthly draws or whatever I send a request, but I'm also lending out money on rehabs for other with Brett. So
I do exactly the same thing. I borrow money and I lend money. Like I'm lending right now because I have a bunch of money left over and I'm borrowing money for a close on Friday. Why? Because I just keep it moving. I borrow because I want to keep it moving, right? But also because like you have to establish a relationship with somebody so that they learn to trust you. So then they're like, okay, yeah, good. I understand how all of this works. And then I lend and then I borrow. Like just keep it moving.
Before the group, I obtained the flip by a HELOC on our house. And it was right before sub 2. I wish I was in sub 2 because I would have found cheaper hard money. But unbeknownst to me, I was getting this HELOC. I didn't really have any other vision other than flipping the home with it. So it was a 20% or 18.5% down payment that I used the HELOC for. But when I sell it, and I pay 10% to the bank for the HELOC at $500,000. So it's like $4,700 a month. So when I sell the flip and get $400,000 of the 500 back, should I put it into my HELOC and lower my monthly payment, or should I lend out 400 grand, making 5% a month, making $20,000, and then just pay that $5,000 note off, and now I have a net of $15,000. So yes, I can see the value of leverage and arbitrage. My net arbitrage will be 50% on that money that the bank gave me. And I think I heard somebody in the groups call it equity in the lumber. It's just latent energy in your own home that you need to extract that equity out and go put it into the system and pay the bank their 10%, whatever. Right. Because I can do way better than that in the system.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, you've got exactly the right thinking. Like if you can borrow here less, expensive, and then you can lend it out more, you're just going to take the spread, which is beautiful. In fact, I'm doing this right now. It's actually a bank. Oh God, you guys, don't ask me what I was thinking, but it's because it's 8%. And, you have to go through all the standard. It's on a piece of land. Because I anticipate having to hold it for 12 months. So, I mean, I don't know how long I'm going to have to hold it, right? But I was like, I want to establish a relationship with them because they lend on rural land. And I don't have a quote unquote traditional lender on rural land. I have lots of PMLs, but they always, PMLs, like it's more expensive. So 8% money from a traditional lender, a lot more work. Right? Yeah. It takes more time, but that's okay. Like I'll do that.
It's cheapish, way cheaper than private money.
Right. Yeah. That's great. That's awesome. I love how you're thinking about that. It's really, really, really good. Yeah. Amazing. Okay. So for anybody that's new, I don't see any new people. Gina, I don't think we know each other. Do we know each other? Hi, Gina. You're on mute.
I was going to say, no, I think we had a phone call and that was about it. So,
well, awesome to see you. You're in your car.
I am in my car and I was doing errands. So awesome. I am parked. See?
Awesome. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Great. Well, I'll just go over sort of the format. Like it's pretty loose, you guys, like we just jump on, right? And I just figured, people have been very gracious with their time with me. And it's really just an opportunity for anybody who's kind of stuck or wants to ask questions. My experience is, as you guys probably know, I have a hotel. I syndicated. I've had my fund documents on my email for almost a year now, and I've waffled on my thesis 3 times, Asher. I've flopped back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I have my LPA and my PPM that's ready to go. It needs to feel exactly right. I own a bunch of Airbnbs and single family homes. Never do that again. It's fine. I own them, right? They're sub-2s in seller finance. I've been in commercial real estate, did tenant representation for 22 years. I started a concierge medicine business with my husband back in 2015. We built it to 5 locations and we just sold it to private equity in July, which was life-changing. And let's see, I have a little OCD, so I'm pretty funky about like systems, and I'm always looking for the most efficient way to do something. And I have a really awesome team of people. I understood very early the value of building the team. Well, here's what happened. I came into sub-2. I stopped doing tenant representation because Pace was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it all out. And then I jumped in with 2 feet. And then I realized, like, if I'm really going to build a portfolio, like a multi-billion-dollar portfolio. Now, I didn't start out that way. I started out like, well, I don't know, 10 million, 20 million would be all right. And now I'm like, oh no, like I want Grant Cardone level, because I wasn't thinking big enough, right? I needed to be around people like you to get in the right mindset. And so I started to build my team. And as I was building my team, right, you draw down like, oh, we're making good money. And then, oh, we're not making good money. What happened? Because you have to get comfortable spending money that you hope is going to help you, right, free up your time so that you can spend time on higher value things. And that's where, you start to get a little nervous, like, God, I hope I'm not wrong about my calculations. But I was able to put aside kind of that lizard brain, like, whoa, panic, because I had done this in the other business with my husband and I. We used all our own money when we started our company. And let me tell you, terrifying first 3 years, right? It was like, he's a physician, right? So like we made really, and I'm commercial, we made really good money. And then all of a sudden, like 3 years, no salary for him. Like I was looking at each other like, oh, this is, our kid goes to, private school and we have like, big fancy lives, like what? But I also knew, like, teach a woman to fish and she's never going to go hungry. Like I can fish like there's nobody's business. So but again, like everybody else, like I had to get comfortable with it. And so fast forward, right here I am 2 years into sub two, and I don't have it all figured out. I have made mistakes, learned from those mistakes, got a little smarter. But the one thing that I have done that I do want to pass on that I think is really important is I have spent a huge amount of time connecting with other people. And those other people have become my lenders, they've become my borrowers, and they've become my partners, and they've become my friends. And so when Pace talks about community, I'm like, he's right. And so that's mostly why I even do this, because I get to meet, the Rileys of the world and the Andreas and the Ashers and Pansy we've met in person, and now Gina, right? So I say this every time I come on the office hours, because if you are not doing this, then you need to do it, which is spend as much time as you possibly can connecting with other people. It might only be 15 minutes. What do you need? What do I need? Where can we help each other? Okay, cool. Now I know. And then you put that kind of in your back pocket. You find some sort of system to, collect that. And then you remember anytime somebody needs something that Riley needs, the first thing I'm going to say, talk to my girlfriend Riley, because she can help you with that. And then Riley's going to be like, holy smokes. Like what here, crazy. On the Facebook page, sometimes someone will tag me and say, I don't know, maybe Rhea knows. And I'm like, yep, I do. And I'm able to help someone with something super obscure. So Garrett Kaplan just asked something about, he sent me a text message and said, I've got this $12 million property in Tulum, Mexico, and I'm wondering if you want to think about fractional ownership with me. And I'm like, not in Tulum, Mexico. I do not. And I don't know anything about fractional ownership, and my husband's not a beach person. And I'm like, no, not for me. But I remembered. And then I was scouring the Facebook page looking for ways to be helpful or to put things up that might be helpful. And I see somebody post something about, hey, I'm exploring the idea of fractional ownership. I'm like, oh my God. And I tag Garrett and he goes, what are the chances of that? And I'm just like, it's just listening. Just listen for like, what does somebody else need? Because now, if I ever need anything, right, Garrett is going to be predisposed to be like, well, Rhea always goes out of her way to help me. So, Rhea needs this. He might just go a little bit deeper. Like Asher, if I need something, hey, Asher, I need some help on this. You'd be like, yeah, I got you. What do you need? Because we have a relationship now. So it's hard to say no, brush somebody off, ignore them. You can't, right, ignore them. And the other reason I do this is because I now have to ignore people on Facebook and text, and it feels awful because I don't like to ignore people. Because guess what? When I came into some two people ignored me too, because they were like, I don't know who she is. Maybe she's not going to do anything. Maybe she's going to sit there. She's going to drink through the fire hose and she's not going to take any action. I was like, I'm going to show you people. So I know what it's like if you're first coming in and people ignore you and you're like, damn it, I just need somebody to explain to me the Morby method. I don't understand it. I need someone to get on the phone and walk me through the mechanism, right? And then somebody does, and you're like, awesome. So that's really why I try to chunk my time and do these office hours. I see that Pansy has a question. Hi, Pansy.
Hey, Rhea. I wanted to catch up with you. I finally caught your office hours. Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
It's so hard sometimes. But no, I didn't have a question. I mean, I do have questions, but like it's kind of a personal thing, and I wanted to maybe talk to you about it. I'm dealing with some stuff with my own personal house here in Illinois. But what I wanted to say was I wanted to say something about when you were talking about tagging people and like doing those little things for people, it goes a long way. When I first got into, the realm of real estate and found Pace's community and everything, I knew zilch, like zero. And I was going through some health issues too. So it took me a long time to really comprehend a lot of things. Um, but the fact that when I did pick something up and I was able to like, hey, I know for a fact Rhea knows this or Angie knows this, or, you know, um, I built up those relationships. And so now I'm needing assistance in many different aspects of the real estate and my personal life. And all of these wonderful people from the community are helping. And so I just wanted to say, like, do those little things, even if like, don't spend all your time doing those, but those few little things go a long way when you
Yeah.
finally need to reach out to people,
Yeah,
so.
that's a really good point. And Pansy, never forget, this is like, you never know what somebody's going through, right? You don't really know, like, we all have a facade, right, that we show you. And everybody has something behind that. Maybe they don't know you very well, so they don't tell you. Like when my mom was dying, I didn't talk about it, openly. And then she died, right? And like the people that knew, right, which was really cool, like they totally stepped up. So sometimes you don't know, right, what's going on. You don't know. Some people, some people that come into sub two, and they're asking for help. There might be something going on in their personal life. So I try to be really cautious to be as kind and as patient as possible, because you just don't know.